Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 9 is over, but we are just getting started here on Game of Thrones Live, the post-show recap. And now here are the two guys who just scored box seats for the great games. I'm Rob Cesternino, and here he is. It's Josh Wigler. Josh, how are you?
How are you? Oysters, clams, and cockles to you, Rob.
Yes, oysters, clams, and cockles to you, Josh. Josh has just flown back in on his dragon.
Yes,
and,
on my Droober.
Your Droober.
I took a Droober back from vacation. It was expensive but worth it. It's a ride like no other.
It's worth it. And Josh, it's so great to hear your voice. Antonio did a fantastic job with me, but we have so much to catch up on. Sam lost his maidenhood.
Oh my. Oh my, oh my.
We have so many things. We had the crazy episode last week.
Yeah, I picked the wrong 2 weeks to miss, for sure. No doubt about that. But no, Antonio Mazzaro did a phenomenal job filling in, and Jessica Leese as well. The two of them, they handled the Game of Thrones book club this week, and it was a really, really fun listen. I had a great time listening to it, so really thankful to those guys for stepping up and talking Game of Thrones while I was gone. But yeah, I would be lying if I said I was bummed that I missed the last 2 weeks, because I thought those were episodes I really, really wanted to talk to you about.
Okay, but we've got a great one to talk about here tonight, and sort of an unexpected ending here as the Great Games took a turn, Josh.
Yeah, the Great Games became like the Great Hunger Games at the end, where everyone's just getting targeted and spears thrown into them, and the Sons of the Harpy are out, and the stabby. It was crazy. It was nuts.
Not great, Josh.
Not great, Rob.
Not great. Turned out to me not so nice.
Not so nice. Not so nice, but yeah, it was intense. It was an intense ending. Episode 9. You always got to look out for that episode 9.
Yeah, and I didn't really see that coming. And boy, it was a sneak attack by these Sons of the Harpies. Boy, the Sons of the Harpy are really well organized. Like, it's such an operation that they really, they distribute all of these masks ahead of time. They all know right when the right time to move is. It's a good thing, there was no metal detector. They would have found all those Harpy masks coming in.
Security sucks in Meereen. You would think that these guys couldn't just get into the arena with all these masks and knives. You would think that at least we're instituting a pat down here.
Yeah, you'd think the Unsullied would give you a little pat down. I mean, that's a big Harpy mask.
It's a big Harpy mask.
It's not like you wear a neckerchief, like a bank robber or something like that.
Yeah,
or pantyhose over their head.
Where are you hiding that thing? Where does that go? There's not a lot of natural hiding spots on your bodice to hide that mask unless you I don't even want to know what do you adhere it to your thigh? Do you walk in with a mask on your thigh? Where does that thing go?
Josh, I'm actually on the Marine Arena, the Marina, their website.
Meerena.org?
Meerena.org. And it turns out it was actually Son of a Harpy mask giveaway day at the Great Games. So it was just first 10,000 people that came in got a Son of the Harpy mask to commemorate the Great Games, and that's what happened.
Well, that's stupid. I mean, I know they got to give away, leftover merchandise and everything, but you would think that the Sons of Harpy masks are a little taboo right now. So bad on Meerena.org.
Yeah, okay. So
pretty bad.
Hopefully they'll have better luck at the Daenerys Targaryen bobblehead doll day, which is the second
I've already pre-ordered mine. Are you telling me that if I had just shown up to next week's Great Games, I'd get one for free?
Yep.
I screwed up again.
I think they're off. I think they're canceled.
I've been having a rough few weeks with Game of Thrones. It's just not coming up my way.
All right, so we have got so much to talk about, of course. We're live here on Post Show Recaps. We've got the chat room open. We're also going to be taking your tweets later on in the show, hashtag PS Recaps, and then on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. And, of course, it'll be another busy week. Josh and I will get to your feedback later in the week. And, Josh, the book club is back.
Yeah, book club is back.
It never left.
It never left. But no, Terry and I will be back with book club later this week. We're going to have to record later in the week, so plenty of time to get your questions in. And Terry and I missed discussing Hard Home, which Antonio and Jessica Leese did a really great job on, but I'm sure Terry and I are going to want to dig into that. So it'll be a supersized book club when we get to it. Look for that Friday or Saturday, I would say.
Okay, let's talk about the nuts and bolts here of what ultimately ended up happening, where Dany is seemingly cornered, or the opposite of cornered. She's centered
She's centered, yeah. She's brought into the center of the arena, and it's looking bad. It's looking not good. And Rob, I knew it was going to come. There's been a lot of things that have happened on this season of Game of Thrones that have been different from the books. Big stuff from tonight as well, in fact. We'll get into the Stannis thing. That's a big departure from the books. But the thing that happened with Dany tonight, by and large, a few tweaks here and there that are not from the books, but the ultimate result with Dany getting on Drogon and flying away. That happens in the books. But when we get to this moment where the fit hits the shan, and Dany and Jorah and Daario and Tyrion and Missandei, they're in the middle of the ring. All hell is breaking loose. What do you think is going to happen? Are we about to red wedding Daenerys Targaryen? Is that what you're thinking?
No, because I said I got a lot of major characters here. I did feel like once they got to that point, I said, well, how is this going to work itself out? The only thing that I saw that could happen was a dragon. That I felt like I did kind of see that coming.
Oh, well, look at you. Mr.
Hey, how else was she going to get out of that?
Smarty Poo. I'm not talking to you, Smarty Poo.
What else was... Hey, shut your mouth, homie G. Look, how else were they getting out of that?
Right, yeah. The Dragon Ex Machina seems to be the way to do it.
I did think maybe we were going to lose a Missandei.
You thought a Missandei would be gone?
Yeah, I thought so.
Surprised that like a Daario or a Jorah doesn't go here. Like the only person we lose is flipping Hisdar. Who gives a crap about Hisdar?
Yeah, now Hisdar, he was not a part of this, right?
Well, if he was, he got screwed over as collateral damage, unless he's faking his death, which would be very
No, he definitely did get screwed over. But the fact, I thought it was very suspicious when he was late and he was like, oh, I just have to take care of a few things.
Right.
And so I thought that was very suspicious. And once all hell started to break loose, I was like, oh, Hisdar. But then he got killed. So then I was like, okay, maybe he wasn't part of this.
You would think he's not part of it because he's dead.
But wasn't it shady
unless,
when
some
he was
of these sons just didn't get the memo? Like, don't kill that guy. Maybe they thought it was Daario they weren't supposed to kill instead.
Like, why did they make him running late? Just because he's always a dingus, and that's why they have to make him even, like, screw up his own great games that he was excited about?
I think that's probably it. I think that, and I appreciate you calling him a dingus. That is a word that I would use for sure. Even a weenus, I might go as far as to say. But I think that is kind of Hisdar Zalorak's MO, is being a dingus, being late, just kind of being a little bit of a doof, and he's even a little doofy on his way out the door.
All right. Well, Hisdar is gone. Drogon, I think Drogon will be okay. Like, I thought Drogon was going to die. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, listen, if they had killed one of the dragons in this episode, I think that there would be riots on the streets. Like, if you killed Drogon before Daenerys got a chance to ride the Druber, I think that would have really been a problem. So at the I guess he could die now because we've seen Dany on Dragonback, so we have that itch scratched. So maybe he can die now, but it feels like it's going to take a few more than a few spears to take a dragon of his size down. I think if he had stayed there, it could have been really bad. But I feel good about Drogon right now.
Is Drogon full size yet?
No, he's not full size. He can get terrifying to consider.
Okay. Good. Well, yeah, they come in, and I'm just not quite clear about how this all worked out. It seemed like there was a lot of harpies, and then a lot of them ran, and then all of our heroes that were sort of left in the center of the ring, it seems like I guess they're going to get out okay, but it really feels like the harpies got the better of everybody here. Like, it seemed like, Drogon took out like 20, 30 harpies, but it seems like that they really won the day.
Yeah, and it does leave you wondering, like, so Dany's safe. She's out of there. She's on Drogon. She's fine. What about Jorah and Tyrion and Daario and Missandei? They're kind of still just hanging out there.
Yeah. And Jorah's grayscale, it's basically like poison ivy up until it takes over your whole body. Like, there's no ill effects of the grayscale.
Are you asking because Jorah, like, totally manhandled Dany?
That, and he also seemed to be in, pretty good spirits in the fight and everything like that. Like, he was holding his own. Like, he did not appear to be ill in any way.
If it was contagious, like, you would think that one of the tactics he would be using is, like, not just stabbing the Sons of the Harpy, but also just, like, running up to them, just, like, going, like, just rubbing my cootie spot on your face.
I have grayscale. I have grayscale.
Everyone's like, no, retreat.
No.
Wow, the ultimate defense. That's great. Scale.
Yes, there you go. But for Jorah, he's back in the fold, and that's all that matters. He could die of grayscale tomorrow now.
Oh, he could have died of grayscale tonight. He would have been thrilled. That was fantastic. He's very happy. It takes an assassination attempt to put a smile on Jorah Mormont's face. That was pretty good for him. But no, that was pretty cool. That moment where he's got the spear and he chucks it towards Dany. I wonder what's going through your head at that moment. What do you think that Jorah is aiming to do there?
I thought that's going for his star.
Yeah, it's just like, stay away from my lady.
Yeah, she's mine.
She's mine.
But even in the defense of Dany, that I saw that even Jorah and Dario, like they had a bromance between the two of them.
A bromance?
Yes, they were sort of like they gave each other sort of like the sup. Like
yeah,
they like we
sup,
both.
bro?
Yeah, we can work this out.
Right. That's kind of like how you and I look at each other very often, Rob.
A bromance.
Yeah, we have many bromance, too many to keep track of at this point. No, I liked the bromance between Jorah and Dario. I like that, in a situation like this, you can bank on, most times Dario and Jorah probably don't like each other that much. Jorah doesn't like that Dario is making time with the lady he's in love with, and Dario probably thinks that Jorah is a little bit of a creepy stalker goofball. But in a moment like this where everybody is out to get Daenerys, these two can trust each other. These two can trust that, their romantic rivalry aside, these two both have Daenerys' best interests at heart. And in this situation, they really need people whose backs they can lean up against. So I think this is a good situation for both Dario and Jorah for sure.
How do you think Tyrion was doing with advising Dany during the Great Games?
Yeah, I thought that him telling Dany that she could end this when she sees Jorah, that was bizarre to me. Because Tyrion had already advised her last week in Hardhome, like, Jorah's a good dude. Don't kill him off, but you should exile him. His sins are unforgivable. So it was a bummer ruling for Jorah, but it could have been worse. He could have been executed. So Tyrion advised him to be sent away, and I didn't get the sense that it was too much of a sentimental bit of wisdom on Tyrion's part. I get the sense that it's the right thing to do. And I think that the right thing to do here, if you're just trying to be logical about carrying through with this fighting pits thing, which Tyrion obviously doesn't like, but Dany has publicly committed to, for her to put the kibosh on the thing just to spare Jorah and show special treatment there, seems kind of counter to the advice he was giving her last week.
Yeah, it seems very counterintuitive considering that he's supposed to be the guy. Like, she's, like, out there all heart, all emotion, and he's supposed to be the guy who's out there who's, like, the brains of this operation. He's, like, the Karl Rove of the Dany administration, like, sort of advising her, and benevolent Karl Rove.
Okay.
And so he's supposed to be sort of, like, the brains behind all this, and then to say, like, no, we got to save Jorah, just end this. Like, who cares if everybody's upset?
Right. I mean, I know that he likes Jorah. He had a good time on the road with him. They had a few bromance themselves, but I feel like it was a little strange given the advice that Tyrion gave Dany last week to put an end to the fighting pits thing here. And I get that Tyrion doesn't have much of a stomach for this thing as well. He doesn't like the fighting pits. He says he's seen enough death in this life that he doesn't need to see it in his leisure time. I get that. I totally do. But I think that Tyrion, if he's able to advise Dany with a level head right now, which you would hope is something he's capable of, that's really what he brings to the table, you would think that he would just let this play. Because it's not like Jorah is standing a chance at being back in Dany's good graces unless something like this happens tonight. The ruling had already come down. It was already decided that he was going, Jorah was going to be sent into exile. So, it sucks to watch him die, but what major difference does it make? He's already exiled. Just let him, if he's really this desperate to make some FaceTime with Dany, I think you just let him shuffle off.
In fairness to Tyrion, maybe the Mountain versus the Red Viper might have colored his feelings on this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that he's seen enough. And that's actually interesting. I hadn't really been thinking about that, but I wonder if just like that GIF so many of us watched over and over again of the Mountain blowing up the Red Viper's head, if that's just playing on a loop in Tyrion's mind as he's watching these great games. You kind of have to think probably.
Well, especially when they were talking about the matchup between the little guy and the big guy, and Dario is like, always bet on the little guy in a fight like this, and Tyrion's like, well, actually,
yeah,
I've seen it go the other way.
And then the little guy gets his head just lopped right off, and that was still gross, but kind of great.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see ultimately where we go. You think that we're definitely going to see an epilogue to this in the season finale, right?
You gotta think so. I mean, everything is still so up in the air with Meereen. You gotta figure out what's Dany's next step, what happens to Tyrion and Jorah and Dario and Missandei from here. How did the Sons of the Harpy get to this place? How are they going to be dealt with? What is going to happen here in Meereen? I think that this is too much of a cliffhanger to leave the season on. I think that there's got to be a little bit more, at least a little bit more to do in this storyline before we close the book on season 5.
You got to think that at this point, it's gonna be. Can we just get the check on Meereen? Can we just settle up here? We're just gonna take off. Can you just wrap up the rest of the Unsullied for us, and we're just gonna leave.
Yeah. When in the books and in the culture surrounding the books, this is referred to as the Meereenese Knot, which is something that has been called out on the show as a
in
sex
they're not
move.
gonna leave.
It's not with a K, but a lot of people think it's not as in not going to leave. It's certainly. It's been a big plot thread that George R. R. Martin has tied in many knots and has been having a hell of a time untangling. And whether or not the show does that a little swifter than the books have done or are doing or will do, I would guess yes, just because it seems like we only have 2 more seasons of the show to deal with. But will it be resolved as soon as this season? I would expect probably not fully resolved.
Can I ask a question, and you tell me, you use your judgment to answer this question. In the written material, how close are we to the end of what's been written for Dany? Is there still a ways to go in her story is in the book?
No.
So we're pretty close. We're almost near the end.
Yeah, we're almost near the end of basically everybody. We've got 1 more episode of Game of Thrones season 5 to go, and after that, we go into season 6 blind. Very few of us, if any of us, are going to have any real clue as to what happens next. The book readers have lost their advantage after next week's episode.
Because I need your advice upcoming, because I am just about done. I've got like an hour left of A Storm of Swords on my audiobook, and I don't know whether to keeping on, or if I need to hold now.
You don't need. Why would you need to hold?
Because it's the stuff that they're going to show in future seasons that hasn't been covered.
No, I don't think so. Certainly not a lot. Nothing super major. I think that everything is going to get mostly wrapped from the books. That's really kind of crucial. Other than a few storylines that haven't appeared on the show at all yet that might appear one day. That is a possibility, and who really knows. There are a few major ones that just haven't hit the show, and I kind of feel like they're not going to be on the show, but maybe they will. Maybe they will, and there's no advising towards that.
Okay, all right. Well, more on that as we go on. All right. Let's talk about the other major story from tonight.
Before we do that, can we just take a moment to stop and say, how freaking awesome was it to see Daenerys Targaryen riding a dragon?
Yeah, it was really
We've
awesome.
waited a long time for something like that.
I mean, really, in back-to-back episodes, just to touch on the events of Hardhome last week, to have that sort of effects package that was in that 20-minute sequence, and then on top of that to do this big aerial shot of the marina, that's the Marine Arena, and so to get all of that, and then the dragon flies in, and then you have Daenerys flying away on a dragon. I mean, really, I can't imagine how long and how much money all of that took to put together, and this is a TV show.
Yeah, it is, and it's a hell of a TV show. Actually, it's not TV, it's HBO, Rob.
No, that's true. My mistake.
Yeah.
Stupid.
No, it's amazing, and I know you and Antonio talked about this on the shows last week about how you thought that the big episode 9 surprise would be that it's coming in episode 8, that the final sequence of Hardhome was really the big shock, that we're giving this to you a little bit early, we're giving you something super blockbuster, and I do think still, I think that and I don't think that this is a divisive opinion. I think that the final act of Hardhome is the best act of the season and one of the best acts of the whole show. And I think that was, for me, kind of the big episode 9 type of moment. But episode 9 of season 5 was no slouch either. There were some moments in the episode that kind of dragged a bit, and we'll get into that stuff, but I think everything that had to do with Dany and this final sequence of Dany getting on the dragon finally after so many seasons of waiting for someone to ride a freaking dragon, it happened, and it was great. It was super cool. So usually these episode 9 moments are kind of like, oh God, oh no, please don't. Oh God, they did it, and that's terrible. But this was kind of like a lot of that, and then the final ending was just sort of like, F yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
It took you 49 episodes, but we saw a person riding a dragon on Game of Thrones.
It's pretty awesome. Pretty great.
Let's talk about Stannis, and Stannis.
Stannis, what are you doing, you idiot, you moron?
Stannis, no.
Stannis. That is not the Manus that I know. Let me just say. Stannis, what are you doing?
I mean,
What are you doing, Stannis? What are you doing?
let's see how it plays out here. But the Lord of Light better come through after this, because this is one of the worst, most gut-wrenching things that Game of Thrones puts you through here. And I know that there's so many other characters that we know so much more than Shireen that have died, but the way that it was a father to send his daughter into be burned alive against her knowledge. She has no idea. She can't even consider that her father would do this. Ugh.
Yeah, and just rewind the clock like 4 or 5 weeks ago. We were ready to give Stannis Baratheon Father of the Year.
They suckered us in.
Damn
Maybe
it,
not
Game
you.
of Thrones.
They got me. They
No.
got me in that one.
They got me too. You know, we just talked about how the Dany scene, Dany riding on Drogon, is straight from the books, and it's awesome. That's something that a lot of fans have really been looking forward to, is finally seeing Dany get on a dragon. Stannis burning Shireen at the stake in sacrifice to the Lord of Light is not from the books. That's new. Brand spanking new. So big surprise to me, big surprise to book readers, big surprise to show viewers only alike. Big surprise to everybody involved tonight. And you gotta think that after this, Stannis Baratheon was always a long shot for that Iron Throne, but you gotta think we're out on Stannis now.
We are out on Stannis.
We are out on Stannis. I think it's thumbs down on Stannis. I don't think there's any recovering from this. You don't burn your daughter alive and walk away looking like a hero. You don't walk away smelling like roses after this. You smell like horse dung. You suck, Stannis. We're out on Stannis.
We hate Stannis.
We hate Stannis.
I dislike Stannis today. I hate Melisandre.
Yeah, out on Melisandre. Big time.
Yeah. Even Selyse, she tried to come around. At first, she was like the one that's
A little too late. And what about Davos, who clearly knew something was up? Come on, Davos.
Did you feel like he knew something was up? Because, I mean, he did try to say, hey, why don't we take Shireen with me?
Yeah, of course he knew something was up. He knew something weird was going on when he's trying to say, let me take your family with me. And he says, no, my family stays here.
If he had any idea what was going to happen, just like he put Gendry in the boat, I think that he would have rowed off with her.
You would think so, but then
let that happen. I think that Stannis intentionally knew Jon Snow was going to say no. He had to go send Davos off on this errand to go do that.
Because Davos would say no to.
Yeah, Davos would get. I have to think if Davos knew, especially after his own kids are dead, and this is like an adopted kid for him. If he knew anything that they were going to do this, he wouldn't. He would have either gone away with her or put his foot down. Like that.
You'd like to think so. You would like to think so, but maybe he feels like he's already put his foot down one too many times, and putting his foot down here, he's going to lose more than a few fingertips next time. I don't know.
I mean, he's put his foot down over Gendry.
I know, and he almost, gotten really, really deep doo-doo over that. So maybe he's playing it cool this time. I don't know. I'm not inclined to give Davos too much credit. I'm not the world's biggest Davos Seaworth fan to begin with, Rob. I'm really mad at everybody in this storyline. I think they're all cowards. They're all traitors. I don't think it's going to work out so well for these guys.
See, I'm surprised. I'm more bullish on Davos than you are.
I think Davos is just whatever.
He's just whatever.
He's kind of whatever. I'm glad he can read. That's great.
Yeah. I think that Steve Davis tweeted to me earlier tonight, how did Davos whittle with no fingertips?
Yeah. Yeah. How did he carve the stag?
I don't know how he's like doing that with like trying to hold that with maybe I guess you could hold it like that, and you don't need a tip of your finger to do that. But you think that to hold at least the other piece, like
impressive.
Yeah,
very impressive effort on.
You would think he would have trouble like peeling a potato, let alone or an onion.
He is the Onion Knight after all. What do you think about this? I know that we're going to get this question tonight already, but I figured let's just ask it. Do you think that the backlash to what happens to Shireen here, is that going to be similar to some of the backlash we've seen this season already? People who are obviously very upset about what happened to Sansa and some of the things that have just been maybe over the line brutal on Game of Thrones this season. Do you think that we are going to see backlash to what happens to Shireen tonight?
My suspicion is no, because Shireen is just not the beloved character that Sansa is, and I do feel like a lot of the backlash was because that what happened to Sansa doesn't happen to her in the books, that people were very upset that they made this happen to Sansa. I don't think, even though it's similar that you're saying that it does not happen to Shireen in the books, Shireen is just not a beloved character in the story that I don't think people are going to be super upset. I think some people will be upset.
Yeah.
And it was definitely an upsetting scene to watch on the episode, but I don't think that there will be a major backlash.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. Like just the screaming and
It was horrible.
it really is very often just like what you don't see is almost so much worse. The fact that like you don't really see what happens, or you see the aftermath and you hear it, and hearing it is almost worse than seeing it. It's freaking dreadful. It's really, really brutal. I'm curious to see what the fallout of this is.
Okay. How about Ramsay, who last week that he said, hey, just give me 20 men, let me go. And so how was he able to pull this off? What, did he, like, douse everybody's tent in gasoline? Like, how did he get away with this?
Yeah, I think that it's Ramsay pulling off a covert mission. This is something that we don't see a ton of from Ramsay on the show, but Rob, you've been listening to the audiobooks. You know a little bit more about Ramsay Snow from the books, and he has this reputation as kind of a trickster, mischievous, likes to go incognito,
How did he do this?
He likes to put on his the proverbial cardboard box to his solid snake and sneak around and set things on fire. So I don't think that it's out of character with the Ramsay that we know from the books, but it's just not really a Ramsay we've seen on the show. And I think the way that he did it is he's very, very, very sneaky. And I think that he just snuck around. I think he sneaked in. 20 people, that's all you need. And all these people in Stannis' army are so hungry and tired and cold and off their game. You don't see a single person in Stannis' army in this episode who looks happy, who looks awake even, who looks full. They all look famished. They all look tired. They all look like they don't want to be there. They all look like they feel like they're on, a kamikaze mission. So I feel like 20 people to slip through the cracks with Ramsay's drive and ambition and sneakiness, I don't think it's too far-fetched.
Yeah. I just don't know if he didn't have like plastic explosives and detonators. Like, some of those camps were just like random ones were just like going off like popcorn popping.
Yeah, no, that was kind of crazy. Like they synchronized the bombs. I don't know. I don't know the exact mechanics of how it worked out, but it was interesting. For a minute there, I kind of thought that Melisandre was having like a vision. I didn't know if it was real. I thought that maybe she was starting to see some fire wonkiness going on, but it turns out it was very real. It was legit.
Let's go to Braavos, and let's talk about what is going on with Arya. And, of course, she was on the assassination mission to go take out the Thin Man.
The Thin Man. But she's got other plans now, it seems.
Yeah, she got other plans because she is off to go and try to take out one of her nemesises, Meryn Trant.
Yeah, she is going to trounce Meryn Trant if she can. And by golly, Rob, I hope she pulls it off, because this freaking guy deserves death. He deserves something really terrible to have happen to him.
Yeah, I felt like the scene at the brothel in Braavos was really pouring it on now. We hate Meryn Trant.
Awful. Awful, awful, awful. Yeah, as if we didn't need to hate him anymore. Now we find out that he's a pedophile. Come on.
Yeah.
Get him out. Get him out.
Josh, in the past, Jaqen H'ghar seems to have kept pretty close tabs on Arya. And in some ways, he almost seems like he's all-knowing about what Arya is doing. However, today, either he didn't know, or he didn't care, or maybe he's approving of what she's up to?
Right, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what Jaqen H'ghar is thinking about this whole thing, but, you can apply that same question to Needle. The fact that he basically instructs Arya to ditch Arya Stark, to stop being Arya Stark, to become no one. And Arya is able to do that. She's able to shed her name. She's able to shed her her personal belongings. She's able to get rid of all of that stuff except for her sword, except for Needle, and she hides that away. And I think a looming question is, does Jaqen H'ghar know about that? Or does he not know about that? And if he doesn't know about that, does he know about Meryn Trant? Or does he know about Meereen Trant and he doesn't care about these things? Is this part of a test? Or does he know and he does care? I think all of these questions are still in play. Hopefully we get some clarification next week.
Yeah, and you would think that Arya could just take out the Thin Man because it seems that wouldn't take that long to do. He's trying to flag her down of like, oh, I'll take some oysters over here. I'm good. Little girl, and like, I mean, what would it take? 3 minutes to give him the oysters with the poison?
Yeah, I mean, Arya Stark is awesome, but maybe this means she's a bad assassin. You know, can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Can't stalk Meereen Trant and shuck oysters at the same time. Come on.
Unless it means that then once she takes care of that, then Jake and Hagar is going to say to her like,
next assignment.
Yeah, all right. The girl is going to be in the basement for the next 2 weeks working on something for me.
That's a good point, Wandering Bear. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so we'll see ultimately what's going to happen with her, and ultimately if she can take out Meereen Trant, and if there are going to be repercussions for not doing what Jake and Hagar wants. Or, I mean, I could also see him saying like, hey, you're training to be an assassin. Good job on being an assassin. However, the crux of what they seem to be focusing on is the girl is no one. So does Arya have to drop her grudges against all these other people if she is to truly become no one? Because Arya Stark wants to take out Meereen Trant. No one should not want anything to do with Meereen Trant.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's the question is like, how seriously do we take this no one thing? How seriously does Jaqen take that? How seriously does he really firmly believe? And how seriously do the Faceless Men follow the fact that you have to be anonymous, you have to be without any kind of outside baggage? Or is that part of the ruse as well? You know, there's so many mysteries surrounding these people that it's hard to say if they're really just trying to play some smoke and mirrors game or if they really believe all that. But if they do really believe all of that, and Arya is still Arya Stark, and Arya still is working on that list that she used to say every night before she goes to sleep. If that's all still true, and the Faceless Men aren't into that, then you got to think that Arya Stark isn't doing so well at Assassin School.
All right, let's talk about what's going on in Dorne.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I did feel like this was the weakest point of the episode.
The season.
Stuff going on. Yeah, it's been rough in Dorne, and really, like the episode, it started off and Jaime is like having sort of a truce with Prince Doran and Ilaria Sand, that she's like kind of being a jerk about stuff, but ultimately they say that they're going to free Bronn, but under one condition. I'm like, oh, okay, what's this going to be? Like they're going to do something cool here, and it was just like an elbow to the face. That was like the one condition.
It's just like a knock-knock joke. You know, knock-knock, who's there? Your jaw on the ground. Ha-ha, you lose, Bronn.
Try the soup.
Yeah, try the soup. Try the soup. It was a long way to go for a punchline.
No, it was an elbow line.
An elbow line, sorry.
Yeah.
Try the soup. The pie looks good. Try the soup. Yeah, okay, so Bronn got punched in the face. Big things happening in Dorne.
Yeah, and so we are going to have that Marcella is going to be coming back to King's Landing, and maybe that's not such a great idea considering what's going on back there. But they're going to send her back, and then we're going to have a small council seat waiting for Dorne there, and everything seems kind of hunky-dory, and even Ilaria
Hunky-dorny.
Yeah, hunky-dorny. And so everything seems okay. Even Ilaria Sand seems like she's gotten on board.
She seems like she's getting on message, because Doran Martell, like Jeff Probst, believes in second chances, but he doesn't believe in third chances.
His life is fine.
Yeah, his life is fine, and he's laid it out for Ilaria that she gets one more shot. So it seems like she's on brand at this point, that she is going to be Team Doran Martell. Even if she doesn't like his policies, she seems like she's going to play it cool. Or is she? Or is she? For right now, it seems like she's legit. It seems like she's, she says to Jaime, like, I don't believe that Marcella had anything to do with this, and, maybe you didn't either. Maybe you actually are a good person after all. Do we believe that? Seems like a pretty quick turnaround, but then again, this is Dorne where, black is white, up is down, short is long, all that stuff.
Okay.
Who really knows? But yeah, so we're not breaking up the Marcella Trystane thing. That's continuing, and we're bringing Trystane to King's Landing. He's going to have the Red Viper's seat at the Small Council. So I hope you're a Trystane fan, Rob, because it sounds like we'll be seeing a lot more of this guy.
Sure.
I imagine you like him more than Ollie.
Yes. Well, we'll talk about Ollie when we get to the
Great.
wall.
Can't wait. Can't
Yeah.
wait. I feel
So,
like I've been missing out.
what'd you think of the Sand Snakes getting a little slap happy?
A little slap heavy. Yeah, playing slaps. That was fun, I guess.
Yeah. What's going on there?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how they
They're
practice.
bored. They're
They're
bored.
really bored in the jail cell. I guess it's very boring.
Yeah, it's very boring in Dorne, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see what awaits us in Dorne. Do you think that we're going to check in with every story in the season 5 finale? Do you feel like there's anybody that you feel like their story is probably at the point where it's going to stop?
As in, it's already over.
Yeah, like is there anybody you think, or you think we'll go around the horn, all
Yeah.
around check in with everybody next week?
I do. I think we'll go around the horn. I think we'll check in with everybody next week. The only one that I could possibly see us sitting out on, I guess, would be Dorne. Maybe we're done with Dorne. That could be it, that we resolved Dorne this week. I think that we will see everybody. That would be my bet, is that every single person needs to put in a little bit of FaceTime next week.
Yeah. Many FaceTime?
Yeah, faceless time.
Okay. Do you think that next week we will have an extended episode or regular runtime?
I don't know. That information might be out there. I haven't looked it up if it's going to be a extended episode or not. If any of you guys know, let us know. We can talk about it here on the show tonight. I don't think it's. I don't know. I could see it. I mean, last year's was what? It was like a 75-minute episode.
Yeah, but I feel like people would be talking to us about that if that was the case.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of business up in the air, and knowing some of the things that have to happen next week, there's a lot of business to take care of still.
Okay, a lot of business going on.
Gonna be a busy episode for sure. Either way, even if it's extended, there's a lot that has to happen.
According to IMDb, next week's episode, Mother's Mercy, scheduled for 55 minutes.
That's it?
55, that's it.
Season 5, what are you doing?
5, season 5.
What are you doing season 5?
All right. I heard that 54 will be about the Sand Snakes. That's all. They're gonna play slaps. Then they're gonna play a little bit of Truth or Dare.
No! Good God, no!
Yeah.
Please, God.
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Jon Snow.
Sure, that's the last storyline from this episode, I think. And it's quick. It's just Jon and the wildlings and 1-1. How do you feel about 1-1 the Giant?
Good. He's the new Hodor.
Yeah, we missed Hodor this season. We got 1-1. Big fan of 1-1. So 1-1 and the rest of the wildlings, they're all through the gate. They are on the other side of the wall. Alistair Thorne, gives Jon a backhanded compliment and says, "You have a good heart, kid. It's going to get us all killed."
Yeah. And so they come in, they bring them into the gates. Look, all the wildlings are on their best behavior.
All on their best behavior.
They're all on their best behavior. And so now how did they go from, like, they took a boat to get to where they were going, right? In Hardhome.
Yes.
And they took a boat back, but they ended up on the other side of the wall?
Yeah.
Did they went back a different way?
I don't know. I guess they docked a little bit closer to this side of the wall than we would have expected, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not taking too many issues with that. It was a cool shot to see them all rolling up on the wall like that. I thought that was good.
But did you happen to catch that little twerp Ollie shooting Jon Snow a dirty look?
Yeah, just shooting daggers at that guy. Yeah, you hate Ollie.
Yeah. Well, you like Ollie? Are you going to go on record as an Ollie, pro Ollie? Ollie's your boy?
No. In fact, I would like to fan the flames of your Ollie hate. Not that I have much more to add, but I would really
Lord of Light, we got one for you.
Yeah, totally.
Ollie.
If only he was Kingsblood.
Yeah, if only.
No, I'm with you on the Ollie hate train. I think Ollie sucks.
Yeah. After what we saw Jon Snow go through last week.
Anyone who's questioning Jon Snow from this point forward, after what he went through at Hardhome, using his Valyrian steel sword to shatter a White Walker into pure ice, surviving all the madness that ensued, anyone who's thumbs down on Jon Snow deserves a quick trip to the fire stake, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If that's the team that Ollie is on, then good riddance. Get rid of that guy.
Jon Snow has been to hell and back, and Ollie's going to be like, "Oh, look, this sucks."
Yeah. Oh, wildlings. Oh, I hate wildlings. Get over it, kid. Get over it. Get over yourself.
Get over
Stop it.
yourself, Ollie. All right.
Enough.
Josh, so
Rob.
much to talk about. Are you ready to get to the questions? Should we open up the fighting pits of questions?
Yes, let's get to the great questions.
Let's open up the great questions. All right, question number 1 for tonight. Of course, these come to us via Twitter, via our YouTube channel. Muffin That Sucks wants to know, did Davos suspect Stannis was going to sacrifice Shireen when he asked to take her to Castle Black?
Yeah, and I vote yes. I think so. I think that, it was just everything, the way that all played out. I think that he smelled something suspicious in the air. He knows that Stannis is aware that Davos has a strong moral compass. He doesn't like Melisandre. If Davos is being sent away, usually it means that Melisandre is going to be up to her Melisandre shenanigans that Davos really hates. So you got to think that Davos had a hunch, at least, that something bad was about to happen here.
Yeah, but I don't think I think that maybe he thought something bad was going to happen. I can't imagine he thought this was going to happen. And if he did, I feel like he would have got her out of there.
Yeah. All right, this is from Lauren Garcia. Is the Mother of Dragons going to get some major grayscale cooties now that she touched Ser Jorah's bare hand? Or is she going to be fine? If she does get it, can she be purified by fire? Can the grayscale be cured that way? So a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the first point, Rob. Is Dany getting cooties from Jorah? No cooties from Jorah.
No, we very clearly discussed a couple of weeks ago when Ser Jorah first came down with the grayscale, you need to be in contact with the cootie spot in question. So until he gets the cooties, and again, we didn't see a good look at his hands, but until he has the cooties on his hands, he's free to touch whoever.
Yeah. Oh, man, that sucks for Jorah. He's been trying to give Dany his cooties forever.
Now, is it like poison ivy? Is it like then once you get it on your hands, and then you touch your face, and then you touch your hand, and then you touch
everywhere.
Oh, boy, then it's everywhere. Once it spreads from, it's on Jorah's wrist, that's fine. You don't really touch the wrist on anything too much. But once that gets to his hand, then it's all over.
What do you mean? I pick up everything with my wrists.
With your wrists?
Yeah, that's what I do. I go like this. And I just pick things up with my wrists.
Well, you're very talented.
Yeah, it's my hidden talent. Yeah, I don't know. I think the other part of the question is interesting. If she does get it, can she be purified by fire, and can grayscale be cured that way? Do you think fire is a cure for grayscale?
Well, in the case of Dany, if she can withstand the flames as the Mother of Dragons, as a Targaryen, then maybe, if she gets grayscale, maybe the dragon could just hop in the fire shower.
Yeah.
But for anybody else, then they'd get burned by the fire.
That sounds like a good deal for Dany. Just like the fire shower clears everything right up.
Yeah, and don't tell Jorah that that's an option.
Yeah, don't tell him that. He will hop right in, and it will not work out well. All right, this is from Tom DePlank. Tom DePlank writes, so Melisandre couldn't have stopped those fires that ravaged the camp? Hashtag LVP, hashtag the worst ever.
It's fair.
It's fair. Fair, Melisandre, you had one job. It's to control the fires.
That
couldn't stop the fires in the tents.
If you play this out, though, what does those fires ultimately lead to?
Yeah, sure. The fires ultimately lead to the fire that consumes Shireen, and that's what Melisandre has wanted for a long time.
Yep. So I think that is definitely something that maybe she even saw this coming and didn't mind it. She was up early watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the other piece of it, too, is she just loves fire. Loves fire. So she gets to, just sit out in the middle of this thing and watch all these fires. She's like, oh, cool, fire.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Let's go to, this is from Justin Sharkey, who says, is this the greatest 1-2 punch in TV history? The battle with the White Walkers and Daenerys flying away on her dragons. Not to mention the heart-wrenching scene of Stannis having Shireen burned at the stake. Best back-to-back episodes in the history of television.
Wow, in the history of TV? Probably not.
Yeah, I think
probably not. I mean, I think that this. I thought Hard Home. I do think there is an argument that is one of the greatest episodes of Game of Thrones. I don't know where I would place it. I've never considered a ranking of Game of Thrones episodes or anything like that. I do think that Hard Home gets a spot very close to the top of the list, though. Just, sight unseen. I think that episode was so strong in so many different areas. There were, maybe a scene or two that didn't totally fit with the full picture, but everything with Cersei and Dany and Tyrion, and then, of course, the Hard Home sequence itself, fantastic, riveting stuff. And I think that the Dany stuff in this week's episode was fantastic and riveting, and the Shireen stuff was heartbreaking and really terrible. The Braavos stuff was fine, and I think the Dorne stuff was thumbs down. So I don't think that this is going to go down as one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones, at least not for me.
And there's a lot of great TV shows.
There are a lot of great
Let's just only compare Game of Thrones to Game of Thrones for right now.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Here's another question. This is from our good friend Renegade Music, who says, 2 big questions about Meereen. 1, does Dany have cooties now, or is the blood of the dragon the ultimate cootie shot? No, did we say, again, this is speculative, but no, Dany does not have cooties. Number 2, why were the Sons of the Harpy killing everyone, including upper-class former slave owners? Also, F. Stannis.
F. Stannis.
Yeah.
Screw Stannis. Why were the Sons of the Harpy killing everyone, including the upper-class former slave owners? Is it just like, I don't know, just like covering their bases, covering their tracks, trying to kill as many people as possible so they can throw everybody off of their scent?
Yeah. And
also, just the bloodlust is real.
Yeah.
They kill everything that moves.
To the man with the hammer, everything looks like a nail, and to the harpy with a knife, everything looks like a good murder target.
Yeah, looks like a sheep.
If it's not wearing a harpy mask, kill it.
Kill it with fire or knives, at least with knives. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. All right. Rabs266 writes, my God, I hope Stannis gets killed soon. And OMFG, Daenerys riding Drogon. I has been hoping that happened since I saw Drogon was so big. Now my question is, where is Daenerys going now? So what do you think, Rob? Where does Dany go from here? She's on
Westeros, right? She's gonna get a next episode. She'll get off the dragon in King's Landing, and we go from there.
Not for nothing. I mean, that would be a hell of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, just flying away. No, I think she's gonna go back up to her tower, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. All right, we'll see. We'll see. All right, how about this one? This is from No Lies, and No Lies says, do you think that there'll be as much of an uproar over Shireen being burned alive as there was Sansa Ramsay? Well, I answered it. What do you think?
I think that there are going to be people who are very upset about this. I think a lot of it from the book reading perspective, and I think a lot of it is just going to be kind of the enough already, enough, too brutal. I do think that we will be seeing that stuff. I don't think that the uproar is going to be as big as what happened with Sansa.
You know, Josh, something interesting occurred to me as we were watching the scene out of the great fight between at the fighting pits in the marina, where Tyrion is asked about what's going on in the fighting pits, and he says, I see there's enough killing in the world. I don't need to be enjoying that in my leisure time. Do you think, is that some sort of meta commentary on all of us who tune into Game of Thrones every week? Are we not the people that sit in the marina watching the blood sport spectacle? And of course, for us, we can say, oh, it's fake. It's not real. But do you think, is there anything that's about, are we the people who sit there every week and hope, we want to see somebody get their head bitten off by a dragon?
I think many of us are. Absolutely. I think many of us are. I think many of us are the people that are thrilled that the fighting pits are open and that we get to see these people bludgeon each other to death every week. I think that what the comment that Tyrion is making is supposed to represent, or at least how I read it and how I read the show at large, is the writers encouraging us to be more like Tyrion, that we are subjecting ourselves to this violence. We know that this violence exists. We know that there's violence in the world, and it's challenging our notions to apply this to the world at large, and to take a step back and realize that sometimes the world is a terrible, terrible place, and maybe there are things that we can do about it. Maybe there are ways to affect change. And I think that comment was a really interesting comment on the writer's part, and I think that it's to get us closer, hopefully, to the headspace of a Tyrion Lannister, where, yeah, this show is entertainment, but I think one of the reasons why Game of Thrones is so good is it's not just fluff. There's real substance. There's real meat once you start digging into this meal, and it's asking you to acknowledge that stuff, to think about what this violence means, and apply. And I think it's why people feel so strongly about the show. Why a scene like the Sansa thing really moved people so passionately. Why something like what happened with Shireen tonight might do the same thing this week. Because it's a smart show. It's a smart show. It's an emotional show. And in many ways, the brutality that we see on Game of Thrones, we're not seeing a lot of people roasted alive by dragonfire, but we do see some terrible things happen in the real world. And I think that the writers are asking us to be more like Tyrion rather than just the casual fan at the marina.
Okay. Look, it's a tough question.
It's a tough question. An interesting question, for sure. All right, this is from Jack Journey. I'm confused. Why would the Sons of the Harpy not just kill everyone that Dany left behind? Well, I guess let's tune into episode 10. Let's find out.
The show is, and they all got so scared of the dragon, they all ran away.
They all ran away. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens in episode 10. Maybe episode 10 begins with just Tyrion and Daario and Jorah and Missandei just getting clipped immediately. It's possible.
All right, let's do a couple more quick ones. This is from Daniel Cueva, who says, is it just me, or is Journa the luckiest stalker in history?
Yeah, the luckiest stalker in history. That seems like a big statement. He's certainly lucky, and he is absolutely a stalker. He's not actually very lucky because he's grayscale.
Yeah, that he's unlucky.
No, he's a talented stalker, though.
Okay, what about this one?
It's really asks, is there a king of Dorne or just Prince Doran has all the power? No, there are princes in Dorne. Dorne is the only one of the seven kingdoms that still has its own like princes and princesses and stuff. Everywhere else it's like lords and little lordlings and ladies. But Dorne is allowed to have its old customs because there's been a lot of strife between Dorne and the crown in the past. So Dorne has a special license to do things their way, and Prince Doran is the head honcho in charge.
Okay.
All right. This is from Bradley Huffer. Bradley Huffer says, do you think Davos will continue to support Stannis the Manus when he learns that Shireen has been sacrificed? That's a question we haven't really tackled. We've talked about, does Davos know what Stannis is up to? This is an aspect of the question we haven't really dealt with. How is he going to react? Davos has been fiercely loyal to Stannis in the past, even when he's disagreed with Stannis. But is this one burning too many? You know, is this a bridge too far for Davos Seaworth?
Yeah, but where does he go? I mean, does he go take the black? I mean, what are his alternatives besides being with Stannis? Does he defect to Roose Bolton? I mean, if he could be part of the Tyrion, Dany new thing that's going on in the East, sure, I think he would do that, but I don't know what his alternatives are right now.
Taking the black doesn't sound like an impossible option for a guy like him.
Yeah, and what else does he have going on? He doesn't have any, he's not dating. He doesn't have anything to give up.
You know, he knows Jon Snow decently well. He knows the cause that they're fighting for. I could see him saying, screw you, Stannis, I'm going to the Night's Watch.
Yeah, why not?
You know, he doesn't, his kids are gone. I'm not sure if he's still married or not. Off the top of my head, I don't know. Someone can correct me. But he could, his wife is far away.
She's far. Hey, look, if you're in a different one of the seven kingdoms, then that's the same as your single.
The different zip code deal?
Yeah, that's right.
Got it.
That's right. All right, let's do two last ones.
All right. Rabs266, do you think we will see Needle next week? Do you think Arya Stark is going to take Needle out next week?
Chekhov's needle, right?
Chekhov's needle. You got to think that's going off.
All right.
All right, and then let's wrap up again with the muffin that sucks. KDD writes, Arya lied to Jake and Hagar. Seems like he knew, but he didn't call her out on it this time. Why?
Is he this like the thing like when your parent knows you're lying, but then they just want to see how far you're going to take it and if you're going to come to them and tell them what's really up?
Right. Yeah, so he's really waiting to see how far she's going to go.
Yeah, you got to think Arya too is being a real narc too.
Arya, too, is narking hard. You have to imagine. Absolutely. She just screams narc, Arya, too.
Okay. All right, Josh. Can you believe it? 1 week from tonight, we have the Game of Thrones season finale coming.
Wow. It's happening. We're getting there. A lot of business to take care of next week, Rob.
Yeah. And then Game of Thrones season finale happens, and then that's it. No more Game of Thrones talk from us for a year, right?
Ever again. We're not covering the show past season 5.
No,
Canceled.
Yeah. Isn't there a lot of stuff coming up?
Yeah, we will talk about that more next week, but the Game of Thrones coverage will not go away. We have some plans, and of course, a little thing called the Throners that we did last year, I am sure we will be seeing again. So stay tuned to the finale next week. We'll have a lot more details to talk about.
Season 5 may be almost over, but we are just getting started here on the post-show recaps. All right, so Game of Thrones feedback show. Get your voicemails in and your questions at postshowrecaps.com/voicemail. Also, GOT at postshowrecaps.com. Josh will also have the book club back this week. And then a lot more on the way here on Post Show Recaps.
A lot going on here. Lots of really good stuff. It's going to be fun.
Okay. By the way, Josh, Jessica, Lisa, and I recorded over on Rob Has the Podcast, our reality TV arm of TV recapping. Jessica and I recorded on Friday, finally, the Race of Thrones.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we cast the Amazing Race with all Game of Thrones team, and they went for a race around Westeros.
I cannot wait to listen to that. That makes me really happy to hear.
Coming this week on RHAP.
No, Jessica was such a treat to listen to talking about Game of Thrones on the book club. She knows her stuff really, really well and has some really sharp insight into this story and is very funny about it as well. So I got to imagine that's a must-listen podcast. I can't wait.
We got a lot of options for the hashtag tonight, Josh.
Okay, I think Meereene's the front runner, right?
Meereen is in there. We've also got the Bromant. We've got the Elbow Line. We've got the Stannis.
Stannis. I feel like that's going to be popular among Game of Thrones fans tonight.
And Honky Dorney.
Honky Dorney. I would say let's keep it simple. Let's go hashtag Meerena, Meereena. That's easy. That's ours. No one else is claiming that, I think.
Okay. I would have said Honky Dorney.
All right, if you want to do that too. As always, I think all of those are totally fine.
Feel free.
If you tweet all of those hashtags at us, we will consume it with Dragonfire and enjoy every moment of it.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. We will be back next Sunday night live for the season finale. Don't go anywhere else. Of course, you can follow Josh on Twitter. He is at Round Howard.
Like Round Howard, but rounder.
All right, and I am at Rob Cesternino. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody.